Okay, so back in November 4th, 2019, I made a video titled Guilty Gear 2020 is lame. And while that video got some negative reception with 24 dislikes, we still got 26 likes. People generally understood my point. My point being that accessibility was going to kill Guilty Gear. Well, the Guilty Gear Strive beta had dropped about like a week ago as of this recording, right? I played the beta, so I finally got the chance to play the game because I didn't play any of the previous betas. And while my opinion on the game has changed to a much more favorable one, a lot of my criticisms, like the things that I said in that video, are still technically true. So for this video, what I'm going to be doing, as the title may imply, is I'm simply going to break the mechanics down. I'm going to tell you everything that I learned about the beta, while I was playing it. I made a list of all the different mechanics, all the different functionality of like the moves and stuff. I'm just going to break down how the game works. I'll be doing that in, let me just check my notes here, right, because this is kind of scripted, but not really. I have, we have 6 parts, right? So this is going to be in 6 parts. The 7th part being my impression / opinions on the game and everything. I'll be adding timestamps and everything after the recording, and that will be it. So if you are curious about Guilty Gear Strive, how it plays, what the mechanics are, and whether or not you are interested in buying it or whatever, then hopefully this video will serve as a means for you to make that decision. This is not really meant to be a criticism of the game. If anything, it's me praising the game because I do have positive things to say about it. However, I'm just clarifying that if one of your concerns was that the game was too easy or too accessible, that is still my concern after playing the beta. But like, the game is fun, right? I thought the game was fun, but enough dilly-dallying. You don't want to hear all this preface. You want to learn more about the game. So let's get into it, right? So, part 1, we're going to be talking about normal buttons. How did they change normal attacks in this game? Well, for starters, P self-chains and chains into 6P and special cancel. So when you press the punch button, right? Your punch, your SWAT, little SWAT attack. That only chains into itself in 6P. It no longer chains into kick, slash, heavy slash, none of those things. And it just confirms that they did in fact nerf Gatlings in this game, because can't do that anymore. I was bringing up something for later that I need to discuss regarding special moves. Probably should have put that there normally, right? Okay, what was the next thing? Here we go. Yeah. Kick chains into dust. Kick is jump cancelable. You can chain your kick to a dust attack. Also a sweep, down dust for sweep. And you can jump cancel your kick attack. This is generally the rule among all characters as well. So when you're playing the game, it's like, okay, I'm applying pressure. I want to do something that's jump cancelable. Well, kick is your jump cancelable option, as well as close slash, because S chains to heavy slash, slash chains into heavy slash. Close slash is jump cancelable and can chain into dust, right? So you can chain your close slash into dust, but not your far slash, right? Because limitations on your Gatlings. 2 slash or down slash. I wrote it in fucking number notation. Probably shouldn't have done that. Down slash does not chain to heavy slash or dust. So if you do a down slash and you try to do like a standing heavy slash, that does not work. At least for the characters that I tested it out on. Like Ramlethal in particular, because I played like Ramlethal the most during the beta. Ramlethal in May, and I don't remember being able to do that, so I want to say that that was not there. Normals are still special cancelable. I felt the need to write that down because they took so many chains out of the game that you have to clarify whether or not the move is actually special cancelable or not. It might not be, No air unblockable attacks, and this is the big one. 6P is not an air unblockable. I assumed that 6P was going to be true air unblockable, and that everything else could be air blocked without faultless defense. This is not the case. Potemkin's anti-air grab notwithstanding, every attack in the game can be blocked in the air without faultless defense. Everything. Basically, the only thing that you can't block in the air is a grab. That's it. So, like, I'll go more in depth about that when I get to part 7 about my opinions and everything about the game. Just so you know, like, I've seen like memes on Twitter and stuff about neutral and people kind of complaining about jumping being overpowered in this game, which is crazy to me because people are all like, well, you know, this is the riskiest game to jump in. Jumping is absolutely insane in this game. Chicken blocking is totally a thing in this version of the game. Don't let anybody tell you anything different, because that's just wrong, right? They're just wrong if they say that. Cancel routes shared among casts. What that means is that the characters generally have the same cancel routes. I don't think I saw a single character who had a different cancel route, honestly. So, like, they all have the same cancels. Like, kick to dust, everybody does that. P self-chaining, everybody does that. Like, everybody has the same Gatling options as opposed to Xrd, where, you know, certain characters have like unique Gatling options that the other characters didn't have and stuff like that. That's not a thing in this game. Can delay special canceling, so you can, you know, do late cancels to cancel your normals. Delay that. That's a thing that's in the game. You can use that, I guess, for mind games or whatever. It's like, oh, I did a heavy slash from however many frames away from the screen, or frames away from the screen. Okay, that didn't make any sense. Like, you know, you can space on an attack, do something that's unsafe on block, and then like late cancel it into something and catch somebody trying to punish you. But that the game allows you to do something like that. 6P has no Gatlings. This means that if you do a 6P, it does not cancel into anything else. 6P for frame of reference used to be a launcher for certain characters in Xrd. You could do 6P into close slash with soul and then like start doing an air combo. You can kind of do that in this game, but when I get to the combo system and everything, I explain how that works. Like, they don't want you to do combos like in Xrd or Double X or anything like that anymore. Like, that's just not how the game plays. So, okay, we got through nerfed Gatlings, because that's what that is. These Gatlings are indeed nerfed. So let's talk about throw changes. Throw has 2 frames of startup, can throw from air dash, throw has whiff recovery. They basically just kind of tweaked throw. Like, it's 2 frames of startup, so it might as well be frame 1, but you can't necessarily get up and grab somebody with a throw. You still kind of have to respect Oki because it's not like instant, but 2 frames, like, I'm hard pressed to see anybody who can tell the difference between 1 frame and 2 frames, right? And throw is now forward D and back D. So that's what a throw is now. Your throw is a dust input. It's no longer the heavy slash button, which means that you no longer have the heavy slash plus kick option select to make it so that you do a less risky attack if your throw whiffs. And if your throw does whiff, you have a throw whiff animation. So they literally are punishing you for trying to throw and messing it up. Though, to be fair, from my time playing the game, throw is pretty powerful in this game. You just can't, like, choose to, like, not throw and then do an attack. You have to commit to a throw now. So throw is actually riskier in this game because if it whiffs, you get blown up. You can option select burst with throw break. So what this means is that if you think an opponent is going to grab you, you can press the input for a throw, but you can also press the input for a burst, because burst is dust plus attack button. If you press, like, say, forward burst input, right, and somebody grabs you, if they grab you, you will tech the throw, but otherwise you will burst, right? So, okay, I think they're going to grab me. They go for the grab, you break the throw, but if they do an attack instead, right, let's say they try to meet you with an attack or something, your character will do a burst instead. So that's just a technique that you can use in certain situations to try to negate the amount of mix-up that you can take in the game. just having that option. Right? Can no longer grab burst. The days of baiting someone's burst with a grab are gone. You cannot just like do a dust combo and then they burst. It's like, oh, I bait your burst and you grab it. You can't do that anymore. Burst will beat out your grab. However, there's still plenty of ways to block burst. There's still plenty of ways to bait burst. It's just that throwing a burst, disrespecting it with a throw, is no longer an option. Though that only really made sense in air combos, and this game heavily de-emphasizes air combos. Very heavily. So, I guess that doesn't really make too much of a difference. Dust changes. Dust now has two versions, charged and uncharged. So, to explain what that means, right? Basically, you have a faster dust, right? A faster overhead that does not lead to a dust combo. However, it still hits overhead, it opens your opponent up. But if you still want to get like the traditional dust launcher, if you hold the button down, you get a charged version that allows you to launch the opponent in the air. Originally, what I had heard, based on the original beta and stuff, is that Dust only got the Dust launcher on counter hit. That's apparently not how it works in this version. I don't know if that's how it worked previously or not, but that's definitely not how it works here. There's two versions of the move, and otherwise it's kind of unchanged, though the sliding dust mechanic did get removed. In Xrd, they added a second dust, basically, where you would hit the opponent with an overhead. Instead of launching them in the air for an air combo, you had the ability to knock them into the wall. They would start sliding stuff into the wall, and you can do a wall combo on them instead of an aerial combo. One could argue that there's not too much of a difference between the two, and maybe that's why they took it out, because the air combo was generally the easier option, and getting the combo on the wall and everything was just another combo, so having both of them just kind of felt unnecessary. That might be the reason why they felt the need to remove that, but that is no longer in the game. You can only launch the opponent skyward now. Dust launcher occurs on charged dust. I already covered that. I'm reading my notes, by the way. Yeah. Dust launch combo is based on a timer. So when you launch somebody in the air, right, with a dust and get a dust combo, it's not based on like, they fell to the ground or anything like that in Xrd, right? You're not just like keeping them up in the air. Oh no. See, because what dust combos do in this game, right, is that they force a stage transition. When you break the wall and they go like, and then they pass through the wall and then the stage transitions. When you do a dust, it does that. It forces the stage transition, and the dust combo that you're capable of doing is based on a timer on that stage transition. So like you're kind of like up in the air with them as you're transitioning to the next part of the stage, and you have to do as much damage as you can until you drop the combo or time runs out. So your combos are timer based, and that's interesting, I guess, to say the least, because it means that you have to. It kind of limits what you're able to really do in that situation, because you don't even have the time to do anything too fancy. Because by the time you get started, you can still be in the middle of the combo, right? It doesn't matter. You could be still airborne in the middle of the combo, getting ready to do another hit, and that hit will just not come out because the stage transition will finish, and then the screen will just switch to the stage transition. The character will be on the other side, and you will also be back in neutral, which means that you can't like Oki or anything after a dust, because every single dust launcher ends with you back in neutral because of the stage transition. So that's also something to keep in mind. Dust combo chains similar to Xrd, so the chain routes that you get while in the air are similar to that of Xrd. Ironically enough, because when doing combos in the air in Strive, like your chain routes are just as limited as they are on the ground, but a dust combo in particular gives you cancels that your character isn't usually able to use. So I felt the need to specify that the combo routes that the character has is similar to that of Xrd, where they can kind of press and like kick and the slash and the heavy slash. Like the game suddenly allows you to do that when under normal circumstances you're not able to do a kick into a slash. But the game does allow that, if I remember correctly, having played the beta, it let me do that. Pressing the same button twice in a row slams opponent, ends dust combo. So basically, it's like a knockdown. Like, how in Dragon Ball FighterZ you press the heavy button, for most characters it slams the opponent down. It's kind of like that. You get a combo, let's say you press slash. If you press slash twice, it just slams the opponent down. Kick twice does the same thing. Punch twice, I think that did the same thing. I don't know if it applies to punch. I probably should have checked that. I have like 20 hours of beta footage. I didn't come up with all that beta footage for like nothing, right? I spent a lot of time playing matches and trying to get to Celestial Tower and stuff, so forgive me if I don't know exactly what that is. I can always just make a follow-up video, because I do intend to make content for Strive when it drops, because I will be playing the game. But yeah, but definitely, like when you press like heavy slash to another heavy slash, it just slams the opponent down. So that's kind of your combo ender, as opposed to like, say, an Xrd. Like, Leo Wolfang had a move that, had the opponent back on the ground and had them restand. He started doing his mix-up, and Mei has the body slam, where she body slams them and they go down, and Soul has, a knockdown after his volcanic viper, which they removed. So that's not in the game anymore. So when you do a dust combo, it's like, well, how do I end the combo? Well, the combo's going to end anyway because it's based on a timer. But you can always just force the combo to end by simply slamming the opponent onto the ground. So that's in the game. Alright, so that's it for the normal buttons in the game and how they changed, punch, kick, slash, heavy slash, and dust. So what we're going to talk about next, part 2, is movement. How do they change movement in this game? You cannot double jump from super jump. If I remember correctly, Xrd was the exact same way. I haven't played that game in a long time, but I'm pretty sure that's nothing new. I just felt the need to emphasize that just in case if I go back to the game and it's like, hey, certain characters can do that, man. But because like Melia has like multiple jumps and stuff. It's like, well, is she able to do a jump after a super jump? Like they're not allowed to do that in this game. Can jump cancel air numbers and air normals, including dust. So when you do a dust attack in the air, or any kind of like air normal, like slash or something, you can do an air dash to cancel it and like continue a juggle. And I wouldn't even call like combos in this game combos. They are definitely juggles. And the reason why that's important is because a lot of the combos in the game, or juggles I should say, are based around like air dash canceling. If you do anything that leaves the opponent airborne while you're in the air, like if you meet them air to air, you have to do an air dash to really expand on it, because you just aren't really able to do like double jump combos and stuff. That's just not really in the game. Certain characters can do it better than others. Like air combos are a big part of Melia's combo game, but generally speaking, that's just not how the game plays. Added shortcut for dashing. So there's now a dash button in the game, similarly to how Cross Tag Battle has a dash button for air dashing, for easy air dashing. And Dragon Ball, you can use the super dash button and hold back to also do instant back dash and forward dash and stuff. I prefer not to do that. I just don't really like the way that feels in that particular game. But when playing Strive, I actually kind of got used to the dash button. I think it was kind of cool. Sometimes it's actually more convenient. I noticed sometimes I would double tap to run and my character would just walk, and because I timed it wrong, and because I'm new to the game, right, so I don't really know what the timing is on a lot of the moves as far as recovery and whatnot. And the dash button just kind of made so you don't have to think about that as much, and it definitely makes instant air dashing and everything less crucial to playing the game. Like that's what I'm talking about. I'll get more into that later, but I guess the Cliff Notes version is like, since they're making the game even easier by adding the dash button for instant air dashing, you've basically made it so that anybody can instant air dash, because you don't really need to like master a motion in order to do it. So that can kind of be a mixed bag depending on your views regarding lowering the skill gap in the game. Certain moves have dash cancel property on ground. So certain moves can actually be dash cancel, and this is very important because it highlights how combos in this game actually work. So for example, Soul's his standing kick can be dash cancel. So let's say you hit somebody in the air, right? You hit them in the air, and since there's no air recovery, which I'll get to later, um, they um, they fly in the air, and then you meet them on the ground with standing K, and then you dash cancel into like another standing K, or maybe if you get close enough, you can do close slash or something, and that's kind of how you extend your combo. I played a lot of Ramathal, but I did not know the first hit of her Curtis Circle back P was actually dash cancelable in this game. And there were moments where it's like I probably could have won the match if I knew I could have dash canceled. Was it Era Luma, whatever the fuck that is? If I knew I could have canceled that, then I could have extended the combo and won. So stuff like that does matter as far as like understanding how your character works and being able to maximize damage. It's not like the game has an auto combo and you just mash auto combo and that does all the work for you. But combos are fairly easy to understand, but things like that can stop you from maximizing your damage. Like, oh, I just didn't know that this was cancelable. I just didn't know like this was an option, and it's kind of like, okay, so that ruined the way that I played, right? So that's something to keep in mind, right? What else we got here? Just going through the Dust Loop article, so I just cover anything that I missed. Right? So we got can air dash cancel the normals. No, that says certain moves have dash cancel property on ground. So can air dash cancel normals? Did I really just drop? Oh yeah, I said can jump cancel air normals, and I talked about dashing. Okay, well, I get. Let me just dial that back. You can jump cancel your normals, including dust, and you can air dash cancel normals, and everything I said about dash canceling your normals in the air applies to that. But jump cancels in particular are not too big of a deal in this game, but you can do jump cancels. Like Melia has jump cancels in her combos in this game from what I saw, and people were doing combos with Melia. Sometimes they do an air dash, but there were times where they just did a jump cancel and carried me in the corner with a jump cancel, so it is important to some characters, bread and butters. But yeah, generally speaking, it's more about dashing, at least in my opinion, from what I've seen. It seems like dash cancels are more important in a character's arsenal as far as combo extension is concerned. But yeah, you can air dash cancel your normals, you can jump cancel your normals, those are all still there. And lastly, but certainly not least, your forward air dash has startup, but player can act sooner. So they just kind of changed how air dashing works. Basically, your character comes to a complete stop before air dashing forward, but as soon as they air dash, they can perform an action, which will slightly change where they're going to land when they do that. Because once they start performing an action, they start being affected by gravity. They start going down. So like that's kind of the big gimmick, the big sell is that okay, we kind of nerfed air dashing, but not really because you can act out of it sooner. So you're kind of reacting to the hieroglyphic that comes when a character does a forward dash. This applies to every character except Faust, who has a more traditional air dash, albeit it's slow and kind of weird. It's kind of like his air dash in Xrd, just with a different animation. So he kind of keeps a traditional forward air dash. Backdash, I guess I didn't feel the need to write that down because it's like everybody's backdash is the same. But yeah, backdash has no startup. It's super quick. It's basically the same backdash that you're used to. It's the forward dash that's different. The forward dash is a lot more reactable now, but players can act out of it a little bit sooner. You know, they can do their overheads and whatnot immediately afterwards. But it also has startup, so you see how weird that is. Like, okay, it takes longer for you to do the air dash. You can act out of it sooner, but they can react to the hieroglyphic. But if I did an air dash in Xrd, it took longer for me to perform an action. But by the time I got ready to do something, you might have noticed that I did an air dash. Like, I don't know which one is more reactable. I would definitely say that this has a visual attached to it, so I guess this is the more reactable one. Even though there were visuals when you air dashed in Xrd too, it's just like a gray circle versus a big bright yellow sigil is kind of different, right? But that's how they went about it in this game. I'm pretty sure most of you already know about that because you care about the Guilty Gear Strive hype, you've looked up some of this information on your own. But that's enough dilly-dallying. We need to get to part 3, the combo system. Stagger. Stagger recovery exists. It's in the game. And you can mash to shorten, though no visual indicator. So when you got stunned, right, when you got staggered in Xrd, there would be the little joystick thing over your character showing that your character got staggered. There'd be a little bar, and you can jiggle your controller to reduce stun, and jiggle and mash the attack button to get out. That's exactly how it works in this game. However, there's no visual indication that the player is under that type of condition, which makes this like not the most mechanically transparent version of stagger you could possibly have in a game, right? It's kind of weird. You can also block out of stagger. Directional inputs affect stagger state, or at least that's what I could tell. That you could mash your directional buttons and have the same result as mashing an attack button. But if you hold back, generally speaking, you're able to just block out of the stun. I couldn't tell whether or not it's because holding back actually affected my stun enough that I recovered in enough time to block an attack, or I'm just able to block immediately out of stun. But holding back while being stunned without mashing any other buttons was enough for me to block certain situations in the game. Speaking of which, if hit in stagger, the combo counter turns purple. So just like when you get hit in a combo that you could have escaped in Xrd and the hit counter turns gray, right, showing that you could have escaped, or a blue combo in Dragon Ball or what have you, right? In this game, the counter, the big gray counter, the giant bold text that even a blind man could read, that turns purple if you could have escaped from the stagger. And since stagger only happens on the ground, from what I can see, you can't, because there's no air teching, right? That only ever happens on the ground. So if you ever see purple numbers and you don't know what that is, it's probably because the character got staggered by an attack and they could have escaped. But instead, they got hit and the combo kept going even though they could have escaped. And by that very notion, that is the only form of recovery in the game, honestly. Because that's the only time the player can input anything that will cause them to recover from something. As opposed to, like, a juggle where no matter what you do, you can't get out. I would instinctively mash the P button to try to get out of combos, just because it's Guilty Gear. But I kept forgetting that's just not how this game plays. So there's nothing you can do once you're in the air. It's over. You got you in the air. It's like, okay, you can take the damage or burst. They can't really mess it up. And I don't want to harp on it too much. Well, I guess I can, because the next thing I'm going to be talking about is in fact the juggle system. But one thing I want to just emphasize, since I'm on the topic, is that by removing air recovery, they did a couple of things. They took out the mix-up in the air as far as baiting recoveries for a mix-up. They took out baiting a burst with an air grab. But they also made it easier for the attacker to do damage, right? Because now that you're doing all this juggles and stuff, but let's say you time your combo wrong. It's not so much that, oh, I timed it wrong and you escape, right? Because you can't escape. The only thing that they can really do to time it wrong is if the opponent lands onto the ground and recovers because they dropped the combo, right? Like they dropped the juggle. Kind of like how you drop juggles in Street Fighter 5 or something like that, right? So, but what they did kind of makes it so that your execution doesn't really need to be as good in order for you to do damage, because now you don't have to worry about the opponent ever actually getting out. And now the opponent who is being attacked doesn't have to worry about you setting anything up for any kind of mix-up or anything and baiting their recovery if they try to get out. So both players have far less to think about in a situation where the opponent is getting attacked. And it creates this dynamic where combos in this game, in terms of like metagame, when you think about like what's actually going to happen, what can happen in this particular setting, since less things can happen, it's virtually no different than like Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter 5 in regards to like what happens when you get hit. And I understand they're trying to make a different game with a different type of experience, but it's kind of difficult to like know that what they've done has essentially nerfed mix-up knowing that it's supposed to be an air dasher, it's like sometimes it almost feels like Street Fighter 5 with an air dash, because it's like, well, if this was Blaze Blue, all of these things could happen, and they took out air grabs and cross-tab battles. That's nothing you don't have to worry about unless they do like the air unblockable, and they can do an air unblockable setup on you. But it's like, even in that set situation, even though you can't be grabbed in the air, they can still hit you with an air unblockable DP if you tech up in the air, and they bait you into doing that. And even the game even shows you that that's something that you can do in the game. So just to clarify, when you hit somebody in cross-tab battle, there are more possible mix-ups that could happen from you being hit, and there's more options of what players can do. There's more things that can happen than in Stride. Make of that what you will, because you basically just drop a combo and then it's back to neutral or pressure or what have you. I can't think of a reason why you would drop a juggle on purpose, and since there's nothing they can do to get out of it, it really just depends on whether or not you drop the character. It's like they really did succeed in having less for you to think about by simply making the combo system that straightforward. But I've harped on about that for like 5 minutes. Hopefully you appreciate that, because I'm talking about the game and the game mechanics. This is probably the most positive video I've ever made in my entire history on this website. So I'd like to believe me talking about how the game plays in a video that's about how the game plays isn't like the worst thing I've ever done as a YouTuber. What else we got here? The juggle system. Okay. So kick, close slash, and down heavy slash are usually the juggling normals. So when you're on the ground and you do a kick, a close slash, or a crouching heavy slash, these are usually the moves that knock the opponent upward and like keep them juggled. So certain normals, and this is like relative among most of the cast, so I would imagine Faust 2 heavy slash is different because of the way it's animated. In fact, there's a big ass low. He still has like the disco dance with his scalpel. That's still something he does. But generally speaking, this is how a character will keep the opponent airborne. This is like the general rule that I've noticed among a lot of characters. So let's say you start an air combo and you're using like Ramlethal, right? If you punch them, they will be knocked away. If you use far slash, they will be knocked away. If you use heavy slash, they will be knocked away. But if you use kick or close slash or down heavy slash, you'll get more hang time. And certain special moves also give you more hang time. So certain moves are kind of divided into blow the opponent back or create hang time. And then, whatever moves cause like knockdown, like a slam down or anything like that. But those are basically the categories for moves and how the opponent will react to them during a juggle, right? And generally speaking, those are the normals that achieve that. So you don't really have to think too hard about picking up a character, right? It's not exactly universal, but it's so commonplace that you could probably pick up any character and notice that like this is how they work. So when the game drops and it's like, oh, I want to play Eno or I want to play Angie, but I don't know what moves they use to juggle. I don't know how to do juggles. Well, that's generally how juggles in the game work from my experience. Same general rules apply to air normals as well. So if you do like a slash attack in the air, that will knock them away. If you do a heavy slash in the air, that will knock them away or possibly knock them down depending on the type of move that it is. But if you do a kick move, that tends to knock them far away less. Same thing with dust. I probably should have listed that here in my notes, but the dust attack tends to keep them airborne when you do like an aerial dust attack. But yeah, punching them, hitting them with slash, all of that stuff knocks them away. And it's actually harder to juggle people with aerial normals, so you're kind of encouraged to do grounded attacks to keep the opponent airborne, unless you're like trying to corner carry them, because Melia will hit you with her aerial normals and you'll be knocked back, getting closer and closer to the corner, but then she can jump cancel and dash cancel and kind of like come with you to the wall. And a lot of that stuff is like designed to push you into the corner. Even Ramlethal has like, when she shoots her sword, what does the sword do? It pushes you away from her and tries to force you into the corner. The game is kind of like get somebody into the corner and then break the wall, get positive bonus, win neutral again, and like constantly push them into the corner. There's a lot of emphasis on making sure the opponent is against the wall in this game, which I get because they want you to break the wall. But I'll explain more about that when I get into part 7. But that's definitely a thing, right? So the juggle system works. Juggle height decreases with hit stun decay. So when you're trying to get hang time with certain attacks, right? You're doing a combo. How much height you get from the combo is treated like hit stun decay. Oh, you know, you launch them up again, you do kick, you launch them up again, you do another kick, you launch them up again. But they go like less and less high each time. Okay? It kind of like how with hit stun, when you're doing a combo, the stun decreases more and more, making it easier and easier for the opponent to get out. It's the exact same type of logic, except, you know, they can't get out. Think about basically how Tekken works with like each hit knocks the opponent farther and farther away from you until they eventually kind of like just fly out of reach of any more follow-up attacks. It's like that, except just like the gravity gets heavier as they get hit. Speaking of which, to my knowledge, weight classes are not in this game. For those of you who are Guilty Gear veterans, you may remember that Guilty Gear was unique from other air dashers in that it actually had a weight class system where certain characters would go into the how high they would go into the air when hit was based on their weight class, with of course Potemkin being the heaviest character. So certain combos would work on certain characters but not on others because of their weight class and how certain attacks would affect them, and their different wake up timings would affect Okizemi on certain characters and stuff like that. Not everybody had like the same general mechanics. They would get up at different speeds and a whole bunch of other things. Well, in this game, that doesn't seem to be the case, and I just find it weird how we have a game with a combo system based entirely around juggles. And instead of taking the opportunity to take the weight class system and create like unique juggles for certain types of characters, kind of like how DOA has unique combos while still having a juggle system, they kind of took the Tekken route of everything works on every body, and I guess the only difference is hitbox. Because there's to my knowledge anyway, Tekken doesn't really have a weight class system. I know DOA does, but I don't think Tekken has a weight class system, so like it just doesn't matter. And I just found that kind of interesting that they waited till this game to take that out, because the juggle system to me screams like it wants to have it, right? Because it's basically like 3D combo logic, 3D fighter combo logic that they're using in this game, or I guess Mortal Kombat logic, whichever one you want to go by. And lastly, certain moves cause a wall bounce. For example, Maze 6P. Basically, if you attack the opponent with a certain type of attack and they are reaching the wall when you hit them with it, assuming there isn't enough stun, and we'll get to that soon regarding how the wall works, they will hit the wall and bounce back towards the player, allowing them to continue a combo. So certain moves will cause you a wall bounce, and you should keep that in mind for combo extension, because certain moves have that property attached to it. And that's basically how the combo system works, or the juggle system rather. That's how juggles work. Because if you don't know how the game actually functions, you may be like, well, how do I form combos? How do I do this? How do I do that? And it's like, okay, well, this is generally how the game plays, and this is generally how the recipe that makes a combo work. Right. Let's try to break that down so people understand how that works. Okay, damage. Chip damage can kill. This is the one thing that I mentioned in my Guilty Gear 2020 is lame video that turned out to not be the case when the game finally came out. At least not in this version of the game. Now in this build, chip damage can in fact kill you. However, wall damage from wall break transition cannot kill the player. So when you knock somebody through a wall, right? Let's say they have like a sliver of life, and then they get knocked through the wall and they're just screaming, ah! Okay, that transition, when the player flies through the wall, takes damage, you get positive bonus, and they start rolling on the floor and shit, that will never kill them. That can never kill them no matter how much life they have. The attack that breaks the wall can kill them, but the wall break itself does do a set amount of damage. And from what I tested, the wall break does a set amount of damage regardless of damage scaling, right? So it does like a certain percentage of damage. That percentage of damage will never kill the player, ever. So that seems to be it with the juggle system from what I wrote down, or damage rather, the damage section. Special inputs. Input buffer allows for shortcut inputs for harder motions. Basically, the input buffering in this game is even crazier than Xrd, and you can basically do like shortcut inputs that don't match what the actual input is for the move and still get the attack. Just easier inputs. I still managed to mess up doing half circle back forward a couple of times though. I don't know how I managed to do that, but I mean, I've always kind of had problems with that motion. Like, I love it and hate it at the same time, because sometimes it's like, oh man, this is so cool because it doesn't like conflate with my other moves, and then you try to wake up with, and it's like, why did I wake up with forward heavy slash? That's like, okay, that's not what I wanted, right? But I usually end up playing characters who don't have those inputs anyway. It's like, oh yeah, I'm like a Blaze Blue champion, dude. I'm like the best Blaze Blue player ever. Who do you play in Blaze Blue? My like. Yeah, I play the character with a quarter circle forward super move inputs. Right to the wall. Wall breaks in 3 cracks. Basically, there's like a health gauge on the wall, and it will crack as you apply pressure to the opponent on the wall. Once it cracks 3 times, you can tell how much damage is being done based on like how big the cracks are on the wall as you're wailing on the opponent. It breaks in 3. It basically has 3 stages before the opponent is splatted onto the wall and the wall is ready to break. Wall heals over time, and I have to emphasize this over time. This is not like instant, right? Like, it kind of gradually goes down as you play. Wall damage based on pressure and damage even before the player hits it. And this is the most important part to me, because a lot of people, at least like from what little experience that I've had talking to other people about the game, a lot of people, even though I only talk to like 0 people, but I get the feeling that people don't really get how the wall works. And I think the best way to describe it is, think of it as like a hit stun gauge, right? Like, you know how in Street Fighter you get hit and there's the dizzy gauge, and it just keeps going up and up until it fills, and then you eventually get dizzy. But when you're not getting hit, it gradually goes down, right? If you're not like getting hit or blocking, you'll gradually go down over time. Think of the wall break as like that. You can start from one end of the screen, and they start hitting you and stuff, and around like 7 hits is usually all it takes for the player to to instantly like break the wall and just break the opponent to the wall, right? Just like 7 hits is all it takes. So, like, if you have like a decent corner combo, right? Like, you get a raw hit. Usually, what I would do with Ramlethal would be, tag them with slash on the ground, because Ramlethal is all about spamming slash now. That's her new gimmick, is pressing the triangle button. So you do slash, heavy slash, shoot the heavy slash sword. Then you run up. I usually try to slash them. I probably should be kicking them because it's better, but I guess I can also try to do close slash. But, forgive me for not understanding everything about a game I just got to play for the first time. You should be thankful I even put all this information together for this game that I know nothing about, right? I played the game, I put all this information together. I think I did a pretty good job coming up with all of this the first time I played it, right? I didn't have to make this video for you fucking blood-sucking. I didn't have to do that. But, yeah, so you can do a combo like that, right? Slash, heavy slash, put him in the wall, run up, hit him, do the Duran. That's the perfect version of that move isn't even in this game. But I'll get to that when talking about how they changed characters. But like Ramlethal, the extra execution to get like the green version of her dash, because her green dash is not in the game. But you do that because it juggles the opponent. Then you hit him again, and by the time you get ready to hit him one more time, it's like, well, they've already been stunned to the wall, and like they don't even need to touch the wall during that process for it to wall stick. because that combo has already increased the wall stun gauge, the invisible wall stun gauge, to a point that the wall will break the second they come into contact with it at that point. And that's what you need to understand. So like I've seen like some 20 hit combos or whatever, like with Soul, but what you notice if you look at like the Twitter feeds with the Soul combos and stuff, when he was doing that combo to Potemkin, he switches sides with him. Right? He switches sides with him multiple times, and then by the time the combo ends, he just slams him into the wall and ends the combo. But he doesn't bounce him off of the wall because the wall is going to break if he touches it past like 7 hits. So that's how the wall kind of works, right? And it also goes based off like damage and pressure. So if you're hitting somebody and their back is against the wall or what have you, you notice that the wall will start to crack or whatever, because every time they're getting hit, it's filling up that invisible gauge, and while that gauge is going down as they're getting hit, it doesn't really matter that those hits aren't part of a like one singular combo, because that's not how the game handles that information. It's like, okay, this is the bar. If you get hit this many times, I'm breaking the wall if you're in the corner. And like that's it. If you drop a combo, it's like, well, my bar is still up here. I'm gonna gradually keep it down. Oh, you're getting pressured again? Well, I gotta raise it back up. That's how it goes. Wall will always break if player hits it after a super. That's self-explanatory. You use a super against the wall will always break when hit by a super, which kind of emphasizes my point even more about that gauge. Oh my god. I'm deciding that I'm hungry and I'm going to ruin your video recording and make you like edit me out because I decided I want food. I guess I can always just split it or she can stop crying. I don't intend to neglect my animal companions, okay? I don't want to hear anybody in the comments talking about, oh, you hate animals, you abuse animals. She just likes to cry. You know, some of these guys are whiners, you know. Well, you know, she's cool. But well, where was I? Oh yeah. Wall health is player exclusive. So when you are breaking the wall, right? And like, let's say you have your opponent's back to the wall and the wall is about to break, but they do somewhat ridiculous stuff, and now you've switched sides with the opponent, and now your back is against the wall. Well, your gauge is still at 0 while their gauge is super high, and they're applying pressure against you and the wall. Well, the wall's not going to instantly break just because they were next to the wall. It's going to break when your gauge gets high enough to break it, because that's how the game calculates wall damage. It's based on the individual player's invisible stun-like gauge of how much damage they're taking. A wall break can occur after corner carry. Basically, you can carry somebody into a wall, push them into the wall, and the instant they touch it, it breaks. Even though they didn't touch the wall the entire time during that combo, if it starts from mid-screen and it ends in the corner, if it does enough damage, it's ending in a wall break, period. Wall stun disables burst. Basically, when you get stuck to a wall, there's nothing you can do, you can't burst out. One thing I should probably mention, I don't think I wrote this in my notes, but it's very curious and I don't fully understand how it works. I notice that sometimes I'll get wall stuck, and I guess if I'm close enough to the ground, I just tech, or not really tech, but like I follow the ground. Yet sometimes when I'm like really high up and I get stunned, my character will kind of like jump up into the air after they get out of wall stun. And I'm not really sure why that happens. I can only assume it maybe has something to do with the height that you get stuck at, but even that didn't seem consistent. Sometimes I'd be on the close to the ground and the character would jump in the air after they get out of a wall splat. Chances are you're not going to see that because most people are just going to send you through the wall, and there's not really any reason to not hit somebody into the wall. And even if you try to reset pressure, it's like, okay, I'm going to go for Okazemi, but once they get back up, I mean, you start applying pressure, well, that gauge is still high up, the wall is still ready to break, so you open them up one more time and do like the shortest possible combo imaginable. They're just going to break the wall again, so it makes more sense to just break the wall. But that was something I noticed as well. that how players interacted to when that stun state ended was a little inconsistent and weird. But that's pretty much it for juggle system, the combos. We're done talking about that. So now it's time to talk about part 4, tension, how the tension gauge works, how they change things like Roman cancel. So no dead angle replaced by new yellow Roman cancel. So yellow Roman cancel, traditional yellow Roman cancel, like from Xrd, is now in the game. That is now just purple, blue, and red. And the yellow Roman cancel is now your new dead angle. Basically, you press Roman cancel while in block stun. Your opponent will, do a startup attack for a Roman cancel that staggers the opponent on hit. Basically, yellow Roman acts like burst as a shockwave that can be baited with blocking. So you can like do a jump cancel or something to try to bait that out, or I guess do a move that might be able to crush it. Because it acts like a burst. You can block it. It's an attack. It staggers on hit, but it's not like a dead angle. It doesn't do any damage. It's not really like it's an attack in air quotes, but it's not really an attack. And not only that, it's a shockwave. So it's basically a burst. Because you don't have to like bait like, oh, he did his dead angle and like Soul's dead angle is like his 6p. It's nothing like that, and it's universal among all characters as well. So the dead angle that they use, so to speak, because dead angle isn't in the game, it's the same for every character. So they simplified that, and basically, if you're blocking and you want to use burst, well, you can just use Roman cancel. You kind of, in a way, you have like a pseudo burst. So you kind of always have like 2 bursts at any time. One that works when you're getting hit, and one that works while you're blocking. So that's something to consider. Yellow Roman staggers the opponent. No damage. Already covered about that. Roman cancel on startup. Covered that. 4 versions. Roman cancel. Yellow, red, purple, and blue. Covered that. Okay, so purple and blue Roman cancel have no hitbox. These do not actually damage the opponent. Right? They have a shockwave, but the shockwave doesn't stun the opponent. But what the shockwave does do is slow the opponent down. So when you watch this game being played, you notice that they do their stance, they yell, whatever, and the big shockwave comes out and taps the opponent, and then there's that stopwatch over their head. So the shockwave needs to actually touch them in order for the time freeze to occur. There's no difference in range between any version of Roman cancel. However, the type of Roman cancel does affect the amount of time freeze when the attack hits. So Roman cancel differs on time freeze. Blue lasts the longest, purple the shortest. So when you do a purple Roman cancel, like you do like a late cancel on a move that whipped or something, that has less slowdown time than blue, which is just pressing Roman cancel by itself, just a naked Roman cancel. If you catch somebody with that, it slows them down the longest, which allows for better punishes and stuff like that, because now they're extra slowed down if you want to do that. And the red Roman cancel does have a hitbox and can be used for combos, basically canceling in the middle of an attack. As an attack hits, you click your Roman cancel during hit stop, get that nice red shockwave, and the red shockwave will actually do damage. This is a big difference from Xrd, where I didn't say it would do damage, but it will hit the opponent. It causes hit stun and launches the opponent into the air, which gives you more hang time for juggles. That's all. That's pretty different from how it worked in Xrd, where the time freeze was automatic. It didn't have to like hit the opponent with a shockwave in order for it to work, and no version of Roman cancel in that game could actually cause any type of hit stun. Okay, so can act out of Roman cancel. Startup before shockwave is active, cancels Roman cancel. So the startup frames for a Roman cancel, before they do the shockwave, you can actually cancel that into an attack. One example of this, right? A pretty straightforward example. Like, let's say you're playing Potemkin and you do Hammerfall. You can do Hammerfall into Roman cancel, but instead of waiting for the shockwave to come out, slow the opponent down, it's like, am I going to go for the Potemkin Buster? Am I going to go for the mix-up? The minute you start the Roman cancel, you instantly input Potemkin Buster, and he will do the attack, and it is a lot more sudden. And he can just like grab you out of nowhere if you just Hammerfall Roman cancel into Potemkin Buster. I want to say it's faster than using break. It's definitely a lot more ambiguous than using break, but that's an option that you can use. So that's kind of an idea of like the things that you can try to do by canceling your Roman. Cancel startup into an action. And lastly, you can reposition when activating a Roman cancel. So let's say you do forward dash and press Roman cancel on the same frame. Your character will actually do like a pseudo dash and leave like a copy of themselves behind them as they do the shockwave and like reposition themselves during the Roman cancel. And you can do this forward, back, up, and down. So it's a four-way reposition that you can use. So let's say you're doing a combo, you do like up, up, Roman cancel. They do the Roman cancel, but now you're in the air, and you can kind of like cash them in the air and save your jump and do a whole bunch of stuff like that. It gives you some options as far as like repositioning yourself in neutral and doing combos. I mean, it's something, right? It allows you to do some stuff, right? Faultless defense. Faultless defense costs more tension in the air. In fact, it costs so much tension in the air, considering that air unblockables are no longer a thing, that I would argue that you should never even use it in the air unless you really have to. Faultless defense increases pushback. And when I say increases pushback, I mean it increases the ever-loving hell out of it. You will hit somebody, and they will just fly across the screen. You know, here's an example, right? I would jump in the air, I would block Soul's DP because it's no longer air unblockable anyway. I mean, I already landed so far away that you can't like punish him with like half of the cast unless you're playing like Ramlethal or Axel, right? But if you faultless defense that, you might as well be full screen with the amount of pushback you get from that. It's an insane amount of pushback. Insane amount of pushback. So just keep that in mind. But on the ground, you know, it also pushes back like it's supposed to, right? Like you would expect. Faultless defense negates chip damage as you would expect. Faultless defense drains tension when hit as you would expect. However, it drains a lot of tension, and I have very mixed feelings about faultless defense. Like, faultless defense works in air quotes. It's good, but it's, how do I put it? Since air unblockables are no longer a thing, and faultless defense takes that much meter to use, it's really one of those things you should only ever use in a dire situation, or if you are confident that this is like the way to get the opponent off of you. In fact, faultless defense, more often than not, from my experience, actually made it harder to punish opponents because it increased the distance between you and the opponent when they did something that was really unsafe, and it made it harder for you to just punish them and hit them. So, like, I don't know, I have very mixed feelings about faultless defense. Like, I mean, it does its job. It's not like I didn't use it, but there were plenty of times where I feel like I was being punished for using it, which is never something I felt when playing Xrd. It's like, if you did faultless defense, yeah, you were wasting meter, you were losing super or whatever, but it was never like a bad idea to use faultless defense. Faultless defense and the amount of tension it drains is so bad in this game that is only ever really useful when negating chip damage. And like I said, in situations where, okay, the pushback is the only way to get them off of you, but that typically isn't what happens because pressure isn't really that big of a deal in this game. It's just not the same. I don't know, dude. Like, I criticized faultless defense in my original video, and my critiques of faultless defense unfortunately seem like they were warranted. Faultless defense feels kind of weird in this game, in this particular build. I would argue that maybe it should cost less tension. It just feels like I'm being punished for acknowledging that that's even a mechanic that you don't even need, because you don't need it to block normals in the air anymore. You don't. So the positive bonus and negative penalty. The negative penalty is unchanged, while positive bonus increases tension gain and also attack damage. That's the one thing that I don't see too many people talk about, is how positive bonus actually increases your attack power. You combine that with how risk works, and then it's like you get somebody into the corner, you do the wall break, try to win neutral again. Well, if they win neutral while they're in positive bonus, that combo actually does more damage because they get a damage buff. That's interesting to note. Basically allows the player to try to railroad the other one. Bar, you only have 2 sentences of tension this time, not 4. Supers and Roman cancel cost the same amount, 1 bar. or one section rather. So because of that, you choose either between roam and cancel or super. I understand why that's the case, but it can be a little anticlimactic at times. Really, just like you can do all this interesting stuff with roam and cancel, or you could save it for like a raw super because you can't really do both unless you do a roam and cancel that ends with a super, in which case that's your entire bar meter. I mean, it makes sense, I guess, and it's kind of how it worked in in Xrd. It's just like, sometimes someone would do like a yellow cancel in neutral for 25 meter, and or use a blitz shield or whatever, and do that and get meter back or something. It's kind of like it's not there, and it's kind of like I could have sworn if you did a successful blitz shield, you got meter back when that hit. I thought. I have to double check. I might be thinking of another game where you got meter back for like a successful parry or something, but like you could do more with your meter than what this game allows you to do, is what point I'm trying to get across. Alright, part 5. This will be pretty straightforward. We're going to talk about user interface. There's a couple of user interface, quality of life changes, and other mechanics, just like miscellaneous stuff that I feel like should be covered just for people who care, such as the hide menu option still being in the game. Game notifies player of counter hits and punishes. So if a character is unsafe and they are hit during the recovery frames of attack, the game will actually say punish. So it differentiates between a counter and a punish. Not a lot of games do that. Tekken only does that in training mode, but not when you're in an actual match. So like it does that. It'll say, oh, it got punished, right? And it makes it just easier to see, like, not just as a spectator, but also as a player. It lets you, it kind of communicates visually. It's like, oh, it said punish. Okay, so this move is unsafe. It kind of teaches you what is and isn't safe and neutral simply by playing it. I don't mind it. I think it's good that the game says that. Makes it easier to figure out how the game plays out, having to constantly dig up Dustloop and Mizumi articles in order to figure out what's actually happening as you play. Slowdown cinematic effect for hard hitting counterattacks. Basically just more cinematic flair, big slowdown and zoom in or whatever when you get hit by a counterattack. It seems to be based on the amount of damage the attack does, possibly also the risk gauge. Basically there's like a soft counter and a hard counter. And the big one, the big hard counter, kind of like, I guess, like a fatal, you can have like a fatal counter. That happens when you get hit with a certain type of attack, usually like a heavy slash or something. When the risk gauge is high enough, or I guess the certain type of attack does a certain amount of damage, and you'll be countering big letters and big slowdown effect and everything. I'm still not entirely sure how that works as far as like when that happens compared to a normal counter, but I assume it has something to do with the type of attack that the player was hit out of, and the amount of risk gauge they had when they got hit, because I noticed that risk gauge also affects that. I want to say risk also caused fatal counters in Xrd. I'd have to double check that, but if it did, it's basically the same as that. Super freeze allows input buffering. Basically, when a character does a super attack, you can input whatever you want during that animation, and the move will finish when the animation ends. So let's say Ozato did his super for whatever reason, because he I guess you kept hitting Eddie in the face too many times. Now he wants to summon the shark, right? He's about to bring out Shark Week. And if you're not doing anything during that animation and you just input your super during that animation, when his animation ends, your super will immediately start, and you can just react to it with that. So it's just something to know. Makes it easier to react to certain things in the game, knowing that, oh, during this super freeze I can do literally whatever I want and my move will come out the instant this animation ends, no matter like how soon I inputted it. So that's something to keep in mind. That's in the game, so some quality of life stuff. Speaking of miscellaneous game mechanics, ranking up based on match performance. Basically, from my experience, it seems like your rank really only goes up based on, or I guess your player level rather. I probably shouldn't have said rank, but player level. That goes up based on how well you did a match. It'll grade you for things like offense and defense and stuff like that. And if you do good enough, It gives you the experience bonus based on that for your character. I also want to say it might also be based on what tower you're in. Celestial Tower, I think, might give you a point bonus, but generally speaking, it seemed to give me the most points based on how well I played. Because I was still winning and stuff with Mei, but when I picked up Ramlethal, I started to do actual wall combos, and she leveled up to the point where by the time the beta ended, I was level 165 with Ramlethal. Those are like, I was on like level 65 or whatever, or 63 with Mei, or 67. It doesn't matter. Like she was basically twice, more than twice, 3 times basically, 3 times the level of Mei, and she leveled up way faster than Mei because she was performing better than Mei in matches, if that made any sense. Oh, she did a big 8-hit combo. She did this, she did that. You blocked a lot of times. It's not so much that you win, because if you just win with the skin of your teeth, it will give you experience, but it'll be lower than if you would just dominate the opponent. A combo recipe feature lets you save combo instructions. Now this is something I've never seen in a fighting game before until now. Basically, if you're in the training mode and you want to like make a combo, let's say you figured out, oh, this is a really cool combo with Soul or what have you, right? This is a really cool combo with Kai or whatever, with Ken, Electric Ken, Jin with lightning powers, right? You find a combo and you can actually input what goes into that combo, so you can, like, I guess, save it for later or share it with your friends or whatever. Like, it gives you basically like a recipe, right? Your combo recipe. You have your own recipe book of combos that you discovered with your character, and recreate them basically in game. It's a cool feature, though you could argue that you could also just film yourself doing it or take a piece of paper and write it on that and have basically the same effect, but having it in the game is convenient. I'm definitely not against it. Standard cross-up protection, basically if you played any anime fighter by Arxis, cross-up protection works the exact same way. A couple of frames for side switching, otherwise you're expected to actually block the cross-up. It's how it should be. Moves still clash like in Xrd. If 2 moves clash, how they function is the exact same way. You can just cancel into another attack or what have you. In fact, this game is so jab heavy that I unironically got into a jabbing contest with another Ramlethal twice during the course of the beta. If you can look through some of my beta footage, you'll see that happen. And both players are really just, we're really just both smacking the ever-loving hell out of the P button. I feel like jab spam is a legit thing in this game, but I'll get to that later. We're almost there, because now we're at part 6, which is simply to compare the game to Xrd. Let's talk about the damage scaling. Higher damage from shorter combos. No more weight classes on characters. Damage in this game is absolutely absurd. It is not uncommon to take half of a character's life bar at the start of a match, and you would be thinking, well, what about Guts? And my response to that would be, what about Guts, dude? I can hardly tell Guts is even in the game at times. It really only takes like a good 2 or 3 hit confirms to kill people in this game, and I'm not talking about Chip. It's ridiculous. And that's one of the things I talked about in my original video when I was criticizing the game, that the damage just looked like Sam Show damage. That's kind of what's happening, but not really. But how do I put this? Guts is enough, I guess, to at least get 3 hit confirms, and that's pretty standard for any fighting game when you're doing optimal combos, so that's not really an issue. But the damage is so high at times, I can't help but feel like the matches should be best 3 out of 5. And, they're still neutral there, which is the best part of the game to me. Hopping around trying to fish for hits, that part's really fun. But there's no denying that with easier combos and the amount of damage that you do, plus getting a damage boost after the wall bounce, or wall break rather, I think all of that comes together when all of those things meet, right? The generally high damage, the easier combos, the wall break, plus the attack intention bonus after a wall break. I think that's why the game feels like the damage is so high, because when you don't have positive bonus, and the opponent is low on health, you hit them with a straight hit or whatever, that probably won't kill them, right? Or maybe they'll burst. There were a lot of times where I was like down to the wire where like one hit would kill either me or the opponent. That happened a lot. So if the game was like high damage, you would like touch them once, I guess, and they would like be near death, and then I guess they lose neutral one more time, and then they like die, like, because it didn't really seem like you could okie people as hard in this game because so much stuff in the game resets neutral, right? So it's not so much that, oh, I get steamrolled, not only stand a chance, but like you can make a mistake, and depending on like what the opponent is trying to do, like let's say they're Nagoriyuki, and it's like, okay, I don't care about Blood Rage, I'm just gonna cancel all my moves and go into Blood Rage afterwards because I'm confident this is gonna kill you, and I'm just gonna do my cancels, and here's like 80% of your life. They can just do that to you. They can just do that to you, and when the wall breaks, they get a attack buff, which means that they hit you again, it's gonna hit even more. And that's why the damage feels like it's so high, because there's multipliers in the game that actually increase the amount of damage, as opposed to Xrd where there was no positive bonus, and however much damage, like moves only did less and less damage, as opposed to I got a 20 however many % attack buff, and now this next hit confirm is going to completely ignore your guts, because that's how it works. It's not coming from just raw damage, I guess is what I'm trying to say. It's coming from the positive bonus and the easier combos. All those things are coming together to create an experience where it feels like you just take more damage. Less variables, removal of air teching, burst grabbing, etc. means there's less to consider during a match. I think I covered that well enough. Simplified defense. No frame data changes from instant block. Faultless defense means frame data is more consistent. So faultless defense will still add 2 frames of block stun like it used to. So that's in the game, right? It does increase your block stun. However, faultless defense, like doing an instant block in faultless defense or just an instant regular block, that all it does is change the pushback. When you do an instant block, the pushback is set to 0 and it prevents chip damage. So you do an instant block and it's like, okay, they didn't go anywhere. I didn't get pushed back. It's easier to punish this. That's the only difference though. It doesn't make it like less, like it doesn't make it more negative, right? Oh, this move is safe, but if I instant block it, I can punish it. That's not how it works. It just makes it so that the move is easier to punish because the distance between you and the opponent is closer. They're at point blank range now. And that just makes it so it's easier to understand, I guess, but you don't have to think about doing an instant block. You're really only doing it to avoid chip damage, which you have faultless defense for that, because the instant block is actually difficult. And I guess meter gain, like I kind of question why it's even there. Like it serves a purpose within the context of how the game works, because it makes it easier for you to punish attacks. But it used to do that as well as like by changing frame data, by making actual like changes for how certain moves actually work when you come into contact with them. It's like, oh, this move went from -5 to negative, I don't know, 8 because I instant block it. Nope. It only affects distance because a lot of moves have a lot of pushback and you can't really do any real combos or anything off of a slash attack anymore because your combo routes are all reduced. So that's basically what it boils down to, is they changed mechanics so that they were easier to understand and everything was more universal. Like wake up timing on characters not being universal, weight being removed and stuff like that. It still serves its purpose, but it's an easier version of it, if that makes any sense. It's no Xrd, it's no Central Fiction, it's definitely no XX Acid Core. It's not plus R, right? Easier execution. This is the last thing before I start ranting about my opinions on the game. Simpler inputs for combos means execution barrier is lower. No jump install, advanced character exclusive tech, etc. that was preserved in Xrd. At least to my knowledge, things like Faust's faultless defense dive or whatever, when he does the scalpel dive or whatever, but he does the faultless defense to make it lower to the ground or whatever. Like that's not there. Jump installs with chip or whatever. Like if it's in the game, they don't teach me about it, but why would it be in the game? Because jump install, that's for air combos, and basically took that out. The air combos, they don't matter in this game, not as much. Certain characters like Ramlethal, air combos with Ramlethal. No, it's all about hitting people with 5S and then smacking them into the wall. What do you mean air combos? Okay. But that's basically it. So what are my thoughts? Part 7. What are my thoughts and impressions on the game? So, like I said earlier, which probably don't remember because this video is going way longer than I intended. I probably repeated myself multiple times, but I figured I'd add lib. Well, I wasn't going to sit up here and write an entire script for this. You'd be happy I even organized it in the parts. I could have just read everything out of order, right? But like, I like the game. Don't get me wrong. I was actually going to pre-order the game, but you don't need to know all my business. All I know is that I'll be having the game, right? I'll be able to play the game when it comes out, and it shouldn't matter to you as to how or why. Right? There's nothing illegal. But I'm gonna get the game, and it's gonna be fun. I intend to play it, and I have fun playing the beta. Right? This game is fun. Right? Don't let my criticism fool you. Like when I played, I had a blast playing it. I wanted to play even more of it. But how do I put this? My main concern with Strive is that after a month, everybody hyping the game up are going to get bored of it, and it's like a fad, and we're just gonna move on to the next hype train game. Because the thing about Strive is that I feel like in its current state, we're going to see everything there is to see in the game in a month. I can't imagine the game having the same amount of longevity as Xrd, or especially Plus R, because the game is so straightforward and simplified that, like, yeah, there's a couple of things in here that people are already finding, but we found so much just from the beta. Okay, but what else is there to find? And I think that's the real question: is this like, this game doesn't look like it's as big as an ocean, right? So one has to ask, is this a kiddie pool? Or is this at least like an Adult Swim kind of thing? Because this game is very, very straightforward, almost kind of homogenized, really. A lot of the characters, they had like the same combo routes and stuff. There were some differences. Zato, his kick is a low. He kicks on the ground, so you can't really juggle with that because it's so close to the ground. But even when you could hit with that type of attack, like I tested out with Potemkin, his kick attack makes the opponent kind of like spin in the air and stuff. So it's all kind of like very similar. They made a lot of changes to the characters. In fact, so many moves from characters got removed or altered. For frame of reference, right? So like since I played a lot of Ramlethal, right? So Ramlethal's Daru or Dura, right? That move is -10 on block. So this move that you use for your juggles and stuff, that gets outright punished on block. Now, if I remember correctly, assuming that this frame data is correct, because I remember doing this a lot in the original game when in Xrd when I played Ramlethal. Even though I wasn't particularly good at Xrd because I was still getting in the anime fighters at that time, but I did play her because, look, come on now. Look at her. Of course I'm playing Ramlethal, right? She had the regular version, which was -4, and the Doria version, the electric, that was -2. So this move went from -4, possibly even -2 if you were brave enough. It went from -2 to -10. There is a lot of like Street Fighter-ish logic with a lot of the attacks in this game, where a move that was normally safe is now unsafe. A lot of your normals are negative now, like punch 5p is negative when it was either plus or even for a lot of characters. It's just negative now. And it's just like it's kind of like, okay, let's make like if Street Fighter 5 was like a Street Fighter game for anime players, then Guilty Gear Strive is an anime game for Street Fighter players. That's like the only way I can really hope to describe it. Um, they got rid of Soul's Dragon install, which changed the frame data on a lot of his moves, making like 2H, which is -13, to freaking +3. Because he's in Dragon install, so he's got all these weird properties, and he gets dizzy. And, insta kill. I didn't even mention that they took out insta kill. Insta kill isn't even in the game. There's no insta kill. Like, there's no blitz attack. There's no blitz shield. Less meter usage. Like, that's my thing. So, well, that doesn't sound positive. So let me try to put it like this, right? Let me put it to you like this. Neutral in this game is spot on, right? At least to me, because my standards aren't as high as my cynical content would lead you to believe, or I guess my tone of voice. I have no idea why you people hate me so much, but yeah. So that's not the issue, right? Because characters, I like going in and out of each other's ranges. And even with like the nerfed movement and like the smaller space and everything like that, I like Street Fighter 5 when it's not being too random, right? Because it's such a random guess Fighter 5, and it's like, oh man, is he gonna do a DP? I better take a wild guess. Is he gonna grab me with the 5-frame grab? I better just guess. I mean, fighting games are always gonna have you guess. It's not like you don't guess in Guilty Gear. Even in Plus R, you have to guess about certain things, but it definitely feels less random than Street Fighter, and you have more control, you have more options and everything, and that feels great. But I have to ask though, it's like, is it because I wasn't particularly good at To Xrd that I think the game is good, or because I like cross tag battle. I talk shit about that game because it's nowhere near the level of the Central Fiction, and they did everything in their power to homogenize characters, but it's still a fun game, and I think that's the conundrum. A game can be fun and not necessarily be good. Like, Sonic 06 to me is a fun game, but it's definitely not a good one. And Guilty Gear Strive, I undoubtedly had fun, and I can't wait to play more of it. But I think I need a little bit more time before I can say whether or not it's good. I like the fact that they're trying to be different here. They're obviously not making a fourth Guilty Gear game. So this being like a Guilty Gear spinoff, okay, we're going to try something new. Faust's walk speed is faster, or his back walk speed is faster than his forward walk speed, so he's supposed to be walking backwards a lot and stuff. We're changing this hitbox, we're changing this move. Bandit Revolver, that used to be -5. Yeah, right, now you get punished for using Bandit Revolver. But what is Bandit Revolver in this game? Like, Bandit Revolver is insanely unsafe in Strive. Do they even have the information for that? Oh yeah, and Soul's like his far slash. Let's make his far slash him punching you in the stomach. He doesn't even use his sword anymore. He just punches you in the gut, and that's +2. But so 5P went from like -0. It went from frame 0 to -2. But his close slash is -3, and his far slash is or +3 rather. His close slash is +3, and his forward slash is +2. That's the type of stuff that they're doing in this game. +2. So like, that's interesting, right? So the characters, yeah, the Bandit Revolver got nerfed to being -7. That's why you can punish it. So like, I see what they're trying to do. And Bandit Bringer, I could have sworn Bandit Bringer was plus. Now that's just -1. They're doing stuff like that, and I can respect that. I can respect the fact that they're trying to do that. They're giving us new characters. Nagoriyuki is a pretty interesting character. I like Eye to Eye, or I like the some of the music in the game, or I guess I like part of Colors. But yeah, Bandit Revolt. Oh, that was a dragon and stuff. Bandit Bringer was just straight up even. It was just straight up even. It wasn't just -1. It was even. But yeah. So Giovanna has a cool music, I guess, but the character herself is kind of like, I'm really feeling it. I thought maybe you could like set the dog to do stuff like a puppet, but it's really just a cosmetic thing. But it's whatever. My waifu Ino got into the game, so I'm gonna simp. I'm at least gonna simp for Ino, because Ino got in the game, Ramathal got in the game, And the art style is actually going more towards like a blend of anime and more like traditional Guilty Gear, with like the way that the character designer and everything. They're actually seem to be like desexualizing the characters. You can believe it. Ino looks like she's a little bit more modest. Elfelt doesn't exist in this game. We don't see Underboob from Ramlethal in this game. Wow, we're treating women with respect in this game. I don't know. I have some idiot call me a soy boy on my video the other day because God forbid. It sounds like you people just hate women. Sounds like you just want to hate women. But yeah, so the art direction is also going in a way that I wasn't really expecting as well. I was expecting them to double down on Xrd. They still have some pretty ridiculous stuff, like Chip's muscles being ridiculous, Potemkin looking absolutely ridiculous. I think, Potemkin looks cool. I got used to Chip basically looking like he was on roids. I just thought that was weird for a character who's all about being quick to have arms that ripped. It was mainly his arms that caught me off guard, but I see what they're going for. They're kind of going for a little bit more modesty. But I feel like the last point I should get at, because I can feel myself rambling on and on about this. I could go on about my feelings and thoughts about the games for hours, and I want to try to make this video at least somewhat watchable. Well, we're an hour and 25 minutes in. Oof. Another waste of time video, right? Another waste of time in air quotes video where I spent an hour and 30 minutes trying to tell you how a video game works that you people allegedly care about and allegedly want to play and allegedly want to pre-order, right? You allegedly want to buy it. So here's my parting words, right? For what might even be the last YouTube video I even make, at least for the next century. I don't know. If this video gets poor reception, I'm gonna resort to just shit posting from now on. That ain't even a joke. I'm tired of trying to like make informative content that you people don't even try to ingest, especially one that's like me being positive about a game and just telling you how it works. But alright, change the world. My final message. Goodbye. Right. Guilty Gear Strive. Right. The problem, I guess, with Guilty Gear Strive, for better or worse, right, is that I could not tell you. There has never been an anime fighter on the face of this entire godforsaken earth that was this heavily groomed to be the definition of an esports game. I think that's the best way to describe it. That this is like, what if Guilty Gear was an esports game? That's what Guilty Gear Strive feels like to me. It's been bred for esports, even down to the character designs. Desexualizing the characters, I mean, I'm not exactly against that, but I'm not exactly going rah-rah for it either. I actually know how to use the internet, so I'm not worried about not getting my porn fix when playing a Guilty Gear game. I think I know how to use Rule 34 for that. I think I'm good, right? However, it's like, okay, well, why are you doing that? And it's kind of like when they did it with MK11. I didn't think it was like a big deal that they did that. People definitely overreacted when it came to that shit. However, I think part of the reason why they did that, the real reason, as opposed to like my feminazis, even though I bought the game anyway, I'm complaining about feminists, but I'm still gonna buy and play Last of Us 2 like a chump anyway. Well, I'm gonna complain the entire time, but I still gave them the money. I still gave them the $60, right? It's like, I feel like they're doing what they're doing to make the game more esports friendly. And you combine that with Maximilian hyping the game, Seijam hyping the game, oh my god, the rollback, this Kizikai guy who I don't recognize, they're all hyping the game up, knowing damn well they ain't going to be playing it a month after it comes out. Like, that's what I'm worried about. It screams it's like an esports game to me. Removed insta-killing and all this sort of kind of stuff, made the game insanely easy to play. I'm surprised it isn't like a free-to-play game and you like pay to have certain characters in it or something. Like, it isn't like Overwatch or something, because that's how the game feels like it's being made. And I don't mean that like in a negative way per se. I actually like Overwatch, you can believe that. I mean, look at Tracer's butt. Oh my god, how can you not like Overwatch? But my point is that like, that's the direction the game seems to be going in, for better or worse, and only time is going to tell what that actually means for the future of this game and the future of Arc System Works as a company and the type of games that they're going to produce. I really like Dragon Ball FighterZ. That game has its flaws as well, but all things considered, it's basically anime Marvel, and the Dragon Ball license is not doing it any harm, right? It's doing it nothing but favors as far as getting people to play the game. Right? They see the fancy graphics, they see Frieza and Goku and all that kind of stuff. People get hyped. Oh my god, we're gonna get Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta. Oh my god, we have like 10 versions of Goku in this game. Oh my god, I can't wait to play as like have Goku versus Goku, Goku and Goku and Goku versus Goku and Goku and Goku. Oh my god, 6 Gokus going at it, and we still haven't used all the Gokus. So like that's what they do, right? And it seems to me like ArcSys is trying to find that blend. It's like, okay, how do we make a game that's fancy enough, casualized enough to appeal to a broad audience, while also being able to stand on the esports stage and be like shown an Evo and stuff without having to like censor the titties, like kind of like how DOA 6 did what they did, desexualizing the characters, adding the censorship, kind of having the sexy costumes but not really. Like it was kind of like pseudo, I wouldn't say censored, but it's like they had skimpy outfits in it, but they de-emphasized that kind of stuff. They took out the ability to like jiggle your titties with motion controls and stuff like that. They're doing that to the game as well. Probably won't strip whenever she wins a match in this game, so Rip taking off her jacket, showing off her bare chest, that's not going to be a thing anymore. And that seems to be like the tone of the game. You combine that with what they've done with like Cross That Battle, which, to be fair, that's more of a fan service game. It's very cheap. They threw assets together, but that's part of its charm, I guess. It's like, what other game does Heart team up with Ragna to beat up Yumi and like Akatsuki? Or it's like, what other game has Ruby fighting Azrael and Susanoo in the back, and you've got Hilda throwing swords? I mean, come on, dude, like that's cross-tab battle, auto combos be damned, right? I mean, come on, that's pure anime fan service for people like me who like recognize Melty Blood and stuff. And it's like, oh my god, they're gonna add Kill la Kill. I think, oh man, I would really love it if they add Melty Blood, right? I don't know. I hope this game does do well. Alright, I don't usually wish death on a game, even if I have problems with it. Even my review of Dead or Alive 6, when I call it a bad product, I said several times that I enjoyed the game and I wanted the game to be successful. It's just that Koei Tecmo dropped the ball and released a bomb, and I'm hoping that this is not the case with Strive. I just think that Strive might be the turning point for ArcSys as a company and the turning point for Guilty Gear as a series, where if this flops, we might not see another Guilty Gear for a hot minute, and if it's successful, you can expect ArcSys to make more simplified, streamlined games, because that seems to be what they're trying to do. And make no mistake, while my opinion of the game may has grown since November 4th of 2019, that awful Guilty Gear 2020 is lame video where everything I said was true. Oh, but I shit on the game. Oh my god, man. Make no mistake, not a single word I dropped in that video was untrue. The only thing that ended up being like incorrect, or I guess changed, is that okay, chip damage kills. Right? But, like, everything I said about the game turned out to be right. So all I have to ask is, or I guess the only thing left to wait to see is like if the game is gonna last. Because like, how else do I put it? Like we're never gonna get another Central Fiction. We're never gonna get another Plus R. That's just not going to happen. So you're either on board with a more simplified Guilty Gear game, or you're not. And I'm on board for that. I thought it was fun. I'm more willing to play that. This game is gonna be fun on the buy. Eno's in the game. I get to simp. Oh, I can't wait to simp for Eno, dude. I get to simp for Emo and Ramblethal. Oh my god, and May's an adult, so don't get on my case about that, right? May's 20, whatever the fuck. May's an adult. I get a sim for May. Okay. So like the game's gonna be a blast to play, but you gotta ask yourself, how fun can a game possibly be till you eventually get bored of it and start demanding more out of it? Maybe you don't care about depth. I'm pretty sure most people didn't play Tenkaichi 2, fucking Dragon Ball, whatever, for depth, right? Just think about, okay, what do you want from this game? Because call it a hunch, but my spider sense is tingling, and I think we're gonna find like everything in the game upon like the first month of release, and it's gonna be a lot of jump spamming because chicken blocking is absolutely insane in this game, and a lot of jab spamming because there's neutral memes, there's Potemkin 5 jab memes because the hitboxes are so ridiculous on jab, like people jumping in the air and meeting each other with a jab, people getting on the ground and jabbing each other because like that's like how you anti-air because it's a more reliable anti-air than 6P, which can be blocked in the air and the range is so small on most characters it doesn't even work as an anti-air anymore. Like what the fuck? So I buff 6P and make faultless defense cost less tension are my only suggestions. But yeah, this is Guilty Gear. Guilty Gear was an esports game, so ask yourself whether or not you want to play an esports game. I'm ready to play it. I think the game is fun. I like it. So hopefully that gives you all the information that you need to come to your own conclusion. Share my opinions and my thoughts in the game, my impressions, positive impressions. Even though nothing I said in my previous video where I shouted the game was incorrect, but my opinion of the game, my thoughts on the game, my mood changed. I have a more positive outlook on playing the game, but nothing I said about the game is like not true about it. But yeah, that's Guilty Gear Strive, and hopefully April 9th the game drops. You all have a good time, and you can remember how that guy that you don't like on YouTube told you all those things about the game, and it's like, wow, I wouldn't know what I was doing if it wasn't for him and his long-winded 2-hour videos, even though I want to murder him and spill out his entrails because I don't like the way that he sounds. But yeah, I mean, he said a whole bunch of stuff that when I finally decided to listen to what he said and realized it was true, all of a sudden I learned how to play the game. Alright, so that's all I have to say on the matter. Possibly for the very last time. You either thumb up the video, like, maybe don't comment because your comments tend to be really annoying and terrible. Make sure to subscribe. And this is the only time I've ever shilled too. Right. So I don't want to hear that. Like, comment, and subscribe. Like, don't comment, but definitely subscribe. And if this video tanks, I swear to fucking God, the baby gets it, okay? I'm just gonna shitpost and I'm just gonna don't make me do it. Don't make me do it. I'll do it. You think I'm joking? I'm not. All right. That's all I have to say for the last time. Possibly for the last time.